What is up, beautiful people? Today we're doing something a little bit different and we're talking about power levels in Dragon Ball. Okay, now first things first, what I mean by fixing is I don't mean we're going to be weakening the characters, we're just going to be lowering the numbers of the power level. So Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, they're still all going to be the same strength, but the number to show that strength is just lower. I'm not saying change their strength, I'm just saying change the number to that strength. Hopefully that clears up any confusion. Now if you clicked on the video, you most likely know what power levels are. They were introduced to us by Raditz at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z. They're best known for the it's over 9,000 moment or over 8,000 moment depending on which version you saw from Vegeta, and it being brought up in the story came to an end at the end of the Namek saga due to Frieza. Now what I want to do is to talk about how power levels could have stayed relevant through more of the story and possibly even up to the current. Now, we all know what power levels are. They're used to show us how strong somebody is in the Dragon Ball verse. And during the beginning of the story, it was even a pretty good system. However, then the Namek saga came around and characters like Frieza just brought it to an insane level where it didn't even make sense anymore. Now, I feel like the Saiyan saga executed power levels pretty well, so we're gonna skip the Saiyan saga and jump straight into the beginning of the Namek saga. Feel free to disagree with anything I say. I'm just trying to explain how I believe power levels could have been more tame and less crazy and just skyrocketing to insanely high numbers. I know they still had the power levels in the guidebooks and all, and maybe even in the current ones too, but I'm talking about keeping the power levels and the number system still within the story of Dragon Ball. Not just in the books, in the actual story. This might sound kind of stupid, but kind of like the One Piece bounty system, but just as a way to actually show their power. I'm not saying power levels stopped being a thing in Dragon Ball, I just mean they kind of stopped being a thing within the storyline of Dragon Ball. It just became, oh, who's stronger and who gets the next power up instead of, what's his power level? And I feel like they could have kept that around if they just kept the numbers more tame. They still could have kept their insane strength, but if they just lowered the numbers to evaluate that strength, if they just kept those numbers down some, they still could have kept the numbers within the story. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it, and next I'm just going to go over some examples. And starting with the person I feel ruined the power level system, or at least the number part of it, Frieza. So now to start us off, I feel like we can all agree that the person who kind of brought the downfall of the power level system was Frieza. And if not just him alone, then at least his arc did. Because if you go back to the Saiyan saga, Goku having a power level of 8,000, it seemed like it was maybe not a big deal, but it didn't seem like it was anything to scoff at. And then we jump to the Namek saga and a power level of 8,000 is basically nothing. You could take on a few Frieza soldiers and that's basically it. I just feel like the power creep from Saiyan saga to Namek saga was just too high and too insane. Especially towards the end of the Namek saga, when we had Frieza's power go from around 500,000 to over 100 million. And something I feel like could have been a bigger deal was having a power level of 100,000. I feel like if they hyped that up more and made it where Frieza had the first 100,000 power level in the series, I feel like that could have done better. Instead of having Goku come in at the start of Namek with a power level of 90,000 and having Ginyu with a power level of 120,000, already them two leagues ahead of everybody else. And the only way that anybody else does catch up during that arc is just basically from Zenkai boost, when you could have just lowered the power levels some and made it more, I don't know, I don't want to say realistic because it is an anime, but just to make it where it makes more sense inside the story instead of having everybody's power just shoot up to insanely high numbers for no reason whatsoever. Having a power level of 1 million could have been your 100 million in the actual anime. Instead, second form Frieza already with a power level of 1 million, that kind of makes it a little lackluster. At least to me it does. Because we can talk about power creeps in Dragon Ball all day and how bad the power creeps can get in Dragon Ball. Because I feel like the start of it and the biggest, if not one of the biggest examples of it, is the whole entirety of the Namek saga, especially during the end with Frieza himself, because you could have kept their insane power and insane strength, and you could have just kept the numbers more tame. And I feel like having the numbers actually throughout the entire story could have done a huge benefit to the entire story, just by adding more moments like, oh, what's his power level, or oh, that power level is insane, or oh, we've never seen a number that high before. Or something stupid like, haha Vegeta, my power level's higher than yours. Or haha, take that Kakarot, my power level is officially higher than yours. I know I've said this a few other times already, but somewhat similar to the One Piece system in that way. Not exactly the same way, but somewhat similar. So yes, I feel like they could have kept their strength, but just lowered the numbers of the strength, and they could have kept having power levels actually be shown within the story. I just feel like that could have added more iconic moments and kept the whole basis of having power levels around. And having it that way, they could have kept power levels, the actual numbers, within the story of Dragon Ball, and have them actually mean something, instead of cutting them out of the actual story and just keeping the numbers in the guidebooks, and having those numbers be insanely high to where they don't even make sense, when they could have just kept their strength the same, but just kept the numbers lower to show for the strength. At least that's how I see it. Let me know if you agree or disagree with that point. Would you like to see power levels actually shown within the story more? Would you like to see more scouter shattering moments or insanely high number reading moments in the story of Dragon Ball? Or maybe seeing Vegeta gloat about having a higher power level than Goku? I feel like it could have just added more fun moments like that into the story. Let me know what you think about that. Okay, now with all that being said, let's actually get into fixing some of the power levels. And we're going to be starting with everybody's favorite breakdancer, Captain Ginyu. We know Captain Ginyu was shown to have a power level of 120,000, and we're going to be lowering that down to around 50,000. And now let me take a little pause right here. All of the side characters and stuff, like the other members of the Ginyu Force, their powers are being lowered as well. I just wanted to go over the main characters in this video, like Ginyu, Goku, Vegeta, and mainly Frieza. But if you want to see a video talking about the side characters and the others, let me know as well. And getting back into it, now that we've lowered Ginyu's, we're also going to have to lower early Namek Saga Goku's power level. Now remember, when I say lowering power levels, I don't mean making them weaker in any way, I just mean lowering the number associated with the power level. So we're not making Goku any weaker than what he was in the anime or the manga, we're just lowering the number connected to his power level. I hope that makes sense. I'm not making the characters actually weaker, just the numbers lower. Okay, now Goku at the beginning of the Namek Saga had a power level of around 90,000, with the Kaioken bumping it up to 180,000. We're going to be lowering the base power to 40,000, so that means him using Kaioken bumps it up to 80,000. And now, no one yet has broken the 100,000 power level threshold. And speaking of the 100,000 power level threshold, the first person to reach 100,000 will be First Form Frieza. And we know Frieza in his first form had a power level of around 500,000, and at full power in his first form around 530,000. We're going to be dropping that to around 100,000 in his first form, and around 150,000 at full power in his first form. And once again, I want to be clear, we're not making him any weaker, he's staying the exact same strength. We're just lowering the number associated with the power level. So as of right now, a Frieza at 100,000 in this What If is the same strength as Frieza at 500,000 canonically. I hope that makes sense, but I'll probably be repeating it a few more times throughout the video. And now that we've got First Form Frieza out of the way, we're going to move on to the Veggie Prince himself, Vegeta. And he, just like with Frieza, is going down from 530,000 down to 150,000. Still matching the strength of First Form Frieza. And now after the Prince, we're getting into the first Frieza transformation, Second Form Frieza. And we all know Second Form Frieza has the first shown 1 million power level in the show. I believe it starts off exactly at 1,060,000. And then him in his second form at full power versus Piccolo at 1,200,000. We're going to be dropping both of those down to 250,000 in his second form and at 300,000 at full power in his second form. And now that we've cut the number of second form Friezas, we also have to cut the number of the man he was fighting, Piccolo. Now after Piccolo gets brought to Namek and fuses with Nell, he also has a power level of 1,060,000. And without his weighted clothing, he has a power level of 1,200,000. Both of those are also being dropped down to 250,000 and 300,000 each. Both matching Second Form Frieza and Second Form Frieza at full power. And like I said, I'm just lowering the numbers, not their actual strength. They're staying the exact same strength. I'm just lowering the numbers to make more sense in the story. And since we're talking about second form Frieza, we might as well talk about another person he fought, Gohan, who at this point with his potential rising has a power level of 200,000. And then when he gets enraged versus second form Frieza, it jumps all the way up to 720,000. And we're going to be lowering both of those to 80,000, and when he's enraged, 180,000. Sorry Gohan fans, it might seem like a low number, but remember, his strength is exactly the same as it was, just the number to represent the strength is lower. He's the exact same strength, I'm not changing how strong he was. That might have to be a future video idea, but for now, we're not changing how strong they are. Just the numbers to show the strength. And then after that, we get into the forgotten form of Frieza, Frieza's third form. Or you could just say his xenomorph looking form. Which, this might be a hot take, but I honestly don't mind Frieza's third form look that much. I don't hate on it as much as other people do. But getting back to the point, Frieza in his third form had a power level around 2 million, and we're going to be lowering that to around 400,000. Sorry all my Xenomorph fans, but like I said, their power is staying the same, just the number is changing. You're probably annoyed from me saying it so much now, but I'm just trying to make sure that point gets across. We're not changing their power at all, just the number associated with that power. And now after that, we're going back to the Veggie Prince, we're going back to Vegeta, and the Vegetable Prince, after he gets healed by Dende and gets the Zenkai, has a power level of 2.5 million, and we're gonna be pulling out the roots on that power level. You get it? Vegetable joke? Haha, please laugh. But no, seriously, we are dropping the number down to around 550,000. And now, what we've all been waiting for, the main part of the video, the main person who started all this, we have Final Form Frieza. I'm gonna say this right now, imagine the aura that would be associated with Frieza if his final form was the form that first broke 1 million in the series. I just feel like his final form being hyped up to being the strongest form we've seen, the first one to break 1 million in the series. I feel like it would have been an even bigger moment if they would have done it that way. But sadly no, and this is where the numbers actually stop showing in the show. Well, technically after first form Frieza, after he states he has a power level of 1 million, but still. But this is where the numbers stop being shown in the show, outside of the Broly movie where they bring Scouters back for a few scenes, and they show flashbacks of Planet Vegeta. But outside of them being shown in like guidebooks and online and stuff, this is where power levels stop technically being shown in Dragon Ball. And the way I'm doing it is where I'm having it to where it still could have been a thing throughout the series. But now, getting back in the final form Frieza, him at 2% power was at 4 million. And I know I said I wasn't making anybody weaker, and I'm still technically not. I'm just basically changing the transformations. And you'll see what I mean by that here in a second. But for now, here with Frieza, we're going to make him use 10% of his power to start off with, and that 10% is going to be 1 million. And now before we finish looking at Frieza, we're going to switch over to Goku, who after he was fully recovered had a power level of 3 million, and what I meant by we're going to be nerfing transformations starts right here. Not only with Frieza, but Goku as well. And let me jump in here really quick and just say, we're not really nerfing the transformations, just really changing the multiplier amount. But like I've said multiple times already, we're not changing their actual strength or power, just the multiplier amount for the number we use. So in order to make the numbers make more sense, we have to change the multiplier numbers as well. But like I said, we're not changing their actual power, just the numbers still. But now going back to Goku, we're gonna make it where he can't use anything over a times 10 Kaioken. He's still as strong as he was using times 20 Kaioken, but we're just making it a times 10 to make the numbers add up better. If not, it just throws everything else I've said out of whack, so we're nerfing it at 10. But it's still as strong as he was when he was using Kaioken times 20. Hope that makes sense. And now Goku's power level of 3 million, we're going to be lowering that down to 850,000. Slightly less than Frieza, but still comparable. And then him using Kaioken brings it up to 1.7 million. Him using Kaioken times 3 brings it up to 2,550,000. Him using Kaioken times 4 brings it up to 3,400,000. And him using the new max I'm giving him, the Kaioken times 10, maxes out at 8.5 million. And now switching back to Frieza, final form Frieza at 50% power was at 60 million, and his 50% power in this scenario is 5 million. Now, he's just as strong as he was in the show. We're not making him any weaker. outside of changing the multiplier numbers for his transformations. But the only thing I'm changing is the numbers that represent that power. So his 50% goes from 60 million to 5 million. Same strength, just a different number. So now moving on to Frieza at 70% power. So now Frieza at 70% power was at 84 million. We're gonna be lowering that to 7 million. Same strength as 84 million, just a lower number. Once again, sorry if you get annoyed from me repeating myself so much. And now final form Frieza at 100% full power with a power level of 120 million. That's gonna be going down all the way to 10 million. Making him also the first character outside of Super Saiyan Goku now to pass 10 million. And now, a part that people are probably going to get mad at me for, even though I've already said I'm only changing the multiplier number amounts, not how strong they actually are. So me changing the multiplier doesn't actually affect the strength, just the number outcome. Just to have the numbers make more sense. So now that we've got that out of the way, I'm going to be changing the 50 times multiplier from Super Saiyan down to a 15 times multiplier. Look, he's still the same strength he was with the 50 times multiplier. I'm not changing that. I'm just changing the multiplier amount so the numbers add up. I just have to change the multiplier amount. If not, none of this will make sense. Even though it probably already doesn't. Him with this 15 times multiplier in this hypothetical is going to be the same strength as him with his 50 times multiplier in the canon version. So which means Goku as a Super Saiyan who had a power level at full power of 150 million, the number is going to be cut down to 12,750,000. His power level now says 12 million, but he's just as strong as he was when it said 150 million. I'm just keeping it to where the numbers still could be shown throughout the show still. And I think we're actually going to stop at the end of the Frieza saga, or Namek saga, or whatever you want to call it. If you want to see the other sagas and other characters, please let me know. I can go do those too. But before we do end this, I just want to say the power level system could have been so much better than what it was. It started off really good in the Saiyan saga. Then there's just power creep over power creep over power creep in the Namek saga, and it just blew everything out of the water. It kind of made counting power levels kind of useless, because at that point everybody just got a Zenkai boost or an ass pull power up just to match the next opponent. Just because they made the numbers stupidly high, when they could have kept the same power presence, but just lowered the number amount and it would have had a better effect. At least in my opinion. Because I feel like having first form Frieza be the first person over 100,000, final form Frieza being the first person over 1 million, and Frieza at 100% power be the first person over 10 million, I feel like that would have worked a lot better. But yeah, I think we're going to stop at the end of the Namek saga for now. If you want to see more, let me know. But those are some of the changes I would make to power levels. I feel like Frieza was the character that ruined it, and it just went absurdly high for no reason, when you could have kept the same power, but just made a lower number represent that power. If that makes sense. It should, but hey, we are Dragon Ball fans, so you know how that goes. But yes, let me know if you do agree with it, and if you do think that would help power levels stay relevant throughout the story. And let me know if you would even want to see power levels still be relevant in the story. Because I feel like if you would have made 1 million be the same strength as 100 million, you could have just kept them around and still have kept building up and up and up within the story. But, I mean, that's just how I see it. If you disagree with me, let me know. I mean, hey, it is Dragon Ball. I love it. It's my favorite anime of all time. With my favorite character of all time, Goku. Come at me, fight me, I don't care. If you haven't watched OG Dragon Ball, you can't say anything about Goku being my favorite character. But yes, in short, I believe there were ways to make power levels still stay relevant, and I kind of wish they did in some aspects. But that's in the past now, and all we can do now is just look forward to new anime coming out, and see what Toritaro does with Dragon Ball Super, and see how Dragon Ball Daima does. I'm really excited for Daima. I'm not going to hate on it as much as a lot of other people are. I'm kind of excited for it. But yes, please let me know what you think about everything. And sorry, I did ramble on a lot in this video. And one more thing, this isn't about the video. I just wanted to say we now have membership options on the channel. So you can now join the channel and become a member for some bonus content and some special perks, like getting your name shouted out during videos, put at the end of videos, put in the descriptions of videos, like our first member up here. But it's completely optional. You don't have to do it. It's just for bonus stuff. Now that we got all that out of the way, I think that's all I have for this one. And if y'all enjoyed and want to see more, I guess drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.